Grok is the new AI on the block, but is it really more powerful than ChatGPT, especially for investing? That's what I'm trying to find out. AI tools are getting incredibly powerful, but I'm not about to pay for all of them. Grok is 16 bucks a month, ChatGPT is 20 bucks a month. Is saving $4 worth it, or does ChatGPT still dominate? Grab a drink, take a seat, let's talk about it. What's up, y'all? It's Brian, and I'm breaking down how Grok and ChatGPT are different for investors and how I'm deciding which one is worth my time and my money. So what sets Grok apart from all the other LLMs out there like ChatGPT or Claude? Obviously, it's access to x.com. Grok is integrated. It's got its finger on the pulse of everybody who's posting. If I want to know who the first person to post about a topic is, I can ask Grok and he will pull up. I say he, could be she. They will pull up the first ever tweet on that topic. Grok cannot be beat for sentiment. And sentiment is so important in the world of investing. There are two emotions that cause a stock to be priced incorrectly: fear and greed. And in the end, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a stock that's not priced correctly. I could find a stock that's overpriced and short it, but generally I'm not in the business of shorting stocks. I like to find underpriced stocks. So I want to find stocks that people are selling out of, people are fearful, and the stock price gets pushed lower and lower. During COVID, there were lots of industries that got shut down by the government, and people were rightly scared and selling out of those stocks. The cruise industry, for instance. During COVID, the government shut it down and people were rightly scared. Everybody sold out of every single cruise stock. Royal Caribbean, for instance, was as high as $131 per share, and then at its lowest, it went all the way down to $24. People didn't know if it was going to recover. They didn't know how long it was going to be down, but fear pushed the price so low, and now it's up to $250 per share after the recovery. And it happened the other way too. Gyms were shut down, so people turned to Peloton. People wanted to work out, they couldn't go to gyms, so they bought the Peloton bike. Peloton went up all the way to $162 per share, and now it's down to $10 per share. So my goal is to use Grok to figure out how are the people thinking about different companies. And specifically, I want to find companies that people are fearful about, where people have sold and it's pushed the price too low, and these are the companies that I want to look for. So my first query to Grok is give me 10 publicly traded companies that have had the most dramatic and recent shift in public sentiment. And immediately I realized I made a mistake, because the top 7 companies that Grok spits out happen to be the Magnificent 7 companies: Nvidia, Tesla, Apple, Meta, Alphabet, Microsoft, and Amazon. Unfortunately, these 7 companies are just too loud on the internet. Everybody is talking about these companies, so LLMs are very susceptible to just working these 7 companies in. They will always find a way to make these 7 companies be the answer, so I need to exclude the Magnificent 7 from my search, and I also need to specify that I want Grok to come up with companies that have had recent negative sentiment and are now recovering. So let's try this again. Give me 10 publicly traded companies that have had the most dramatic shift in public sentiment in the last year. Do not use any Magnificent 7 companies, and focus on companies that have had extremely negative sentiment but show signs of recovery. Grok is able to replace the Magnificent 7 companies. However, Grok adds GameStop, AMC, and Bed Bath & Beyond. Now, these 3 are meme stocks. They are very loud online as well, and these are not stocks that I'm looking to invest in because they're just too all over the place. They're up and down. They do not fit with what their fundamentals show. So I'm going to have Grok exclude these as well. And finally, I have my list of 10 publicly traded companies that have had a major shift in public sentiment to the negative and then now show signs of recovery. I'll show each of these 5 companies on a 5-year scale. So Boeing has had a recent drop since 2020. Peloton, same thing. During COVID, they shot way up and then has dropped off since 2021. Rivian, big drop in 2022. Carnival Cruise, big drop in 2020. Beyond Meat, same thing. Wayfair, big drop. Cinemark, pretty big drop, but has since mostly recovered, but still fits the criteria pretty well. Macy's, a little bit questionable. DocuSign fits the criteria really well, and Under Armour fits the criteria very well. So far, I'm really happy with Grok. It has managed to find, we'll say, 8 companies that had a big spike during COVID and then has since seen really big negative sentiment. And now I'm going to be gauging what are the signs of recovery? That'll be my next step. But first, I want to see, what does ChatGPT come up with? How does ChatGPT compare to Grok when I give it the same exact query? I am taking the lessons I learned from Grok over to ChatGPT. Give me 10 publicly traded companies that have had the most dramatic shift in public sentiment in the last year. Do not use any Magnificent Seven companies. Focus on companies that have had negative sentiment but are showing signs of recovery. So ChatGPT comes up with Boeing, Zions, Lincoln National Corporation, Lumen, WPP PLC, Subway, which is a private company, Samsung, not traded on the American exchanges, I don't think, Uber, Volkswagen, Wells Fargo. So ChatGPT has made some errors too. Grok, ChatGPT are not perfect here. So I'm going to update my search to only include companies that can be purchased on the New York Stock Exchange and the NASDAQ. ChatGPT came up with some that are the same and some that are different, but once again, pretty much all of them met my criteria. We have Boeing, Intel been dropping off and actually dropped off a lot more lately. PayPal dropped off in 2021, 2022 after COVID. Carnival, that one's familiar. Snapchat dropped off after COVID. Rivian has really been dropping off since it went public, so that one's a little bit different. DraftKings dropped off but has since been recovering. Beyond Meat, that one's looking a little bit rough, but that one has dropped off since COVID. Lyft and Teladoc. So both ChatGPT and Grok did pretty well. However, I think I would lean more towards Grok on this one because it showed me that it's really paying more attention to what people are talking about online, the way it included all of the meme stocks, whereas ChatGPT really didn't do that at all. So I think ChatGPT is looking more at which stocks are meeting the price action, whereas Grok is looking at which stocks are more in the spotlight, which in terms of prices being susceptible to greed and fear, I think being more in the spotlight makes a bigger difference. So access to public opinion leads me to give Grok the edge when it comes to the first round, finding 10 different companies that fit my rough criteria. I think Grok does a pretty good job. But when it comes to the next level, when I have to actually analyze the financials of these companies, does access to public opinion in the stream of consciousness that is X, does Grok actually help me in that regard, or is it just going to add more noise? Does Grok or GPT give me more actionable advice when it comes to narrowing down this list of 10? So the first thing I do is I ask Grok, rank this list of 10 companies in terms of financial health using their most recent quarterly report. It's my first stab at it. And it comes up with a pretty good list. It looks convincing. It lists the positives. It lists the challenges. It tells me how they did in the last quarter. But I got to check them. Trust but verify. So I ask, do you have access to all of these companies' latest quarterly report? It says, I have access to summarized information and insights from various web sources about these companies, but I do not have direct access to the full financial statements. Okay, so maybe that just means it can't give me the information on the latest statements. So then I ask, can you view the latest financial information for publicly traded companies on Yahoo Finance? Yes, it says I can. So I'm like, okay, that's great. It shows me how to do it, but I'm like, no. I'm asking you, can you do this for me? It says, I can provide you with summarized financial information for publicly traded companies based on what's available on Yahoo Finance and other sources, but I do not have the ability to directly access or display the real-time financial data. I've got to trust but verify here. So I'm going to give Grok a little bit harder of a quiz. Can you analyze the financial health of Boeing based on liquidity, solvency, profitability, and operating efficiency? So once again, it gives a pretty convincing answer. It quotes the current ratio, the quick ratio, the debt to equity ratio. These are all things that I can check though. So when I go over to stockanalysis.com to check these ratios, it's not looking so good. The most recent quarter for current ratio is 1.12, whereas Grok is saying that it's 1.14. The quick ratio, Grok says, is 0.37, but the quick ratio on Stock Analysis is 0.24. So a lot of this stuff doesn't look like it's quite right. So naturally, I got to confront Grok. The current ratio and the quick ratio seem off for the latest quarter. Are you sure they are correct? Grok comes clean. My apologies for any confusion. Let's correct those figures. And it tries to correct it, but once again, the figures aren't quite right. So I'm losing a little bit of faith in Grok. So this time I ask, please try again using stockanalysis.com for the latest financial information. But third strike, Grok's out. It was not able to get accurate information off of the internet. So how can I trust it to perform a financial health check if it can't even look at the most recent and the most correct financial information? Now it's time to check ChatGPT. Same exact question. Can you analyze the financial health of Boeing based on liquidity, solvency, profitability, and operating efficiency? And ChatGPT comes up with a pretty good answer, but I'm seeing incorrect data on ChatGPT as well. So I asked ChatGPT, can you analyze using stockanalysis.com? And this time ChatGPT uses stockanalysis.com and everything checks out. So what I've learned is that as long as I request the exact website that has the most up-to-date, the most accurate information from ChatGPT, it will use it. However, Grok does not seem to use it. For level 2, gauging the financial health of a company, I trust ChatGPT more than Grok. So ChatGPT gets the win in this category for me. So I'm taking the list of 10 from Grok and I'm going to use ChatGPT to narrow it down to the top 5. My specific ask is rank the following companies in terms of financial health. Take into account liquidity, solvency, profitability, and operating efficiency. Please use stockanalysis.com for the latest quarterly reports. And then I just list the tickers of the 10 companies that I got from Grok. And here's the list. Macy's, DocuSign, Cinemark, Under Armour, and Boeing are in the top 5 positions. It tells me why each one is on top as well. Macy's, despite the challenges facing traditional retail, still generally posts consistent profits, free cash flow. It has significant brand recognition, manageable leverage, and a history of dividend payments, even when only when conditions allow. Overall, it tends to display stable liquidity and decent operating margins relative to many in this group. So that's great. Now, this isn't the end all be all. That doesn't mean I'm going to go invest in Macy's. This just means that Macy's is the most financially secure. So I'm going to take the top 5 financially secure and take those to the next level. I'm going to start looking at the valuation and future prospects. One thing I love about ChatGPT is it has different versions that are specialized for different tasks. So for instance, there is an Excel specialized GPT. So I was able to go onto stockanalysis.com, download the financials for any company going back 10 years, quarterly reports, annual reports, download it, and then upload that into the Excel GPT, and then ask it questions in plain English about ratios, have it make graphs about any information that I want to see pertaining to that chunk of information, all of those quarterly reports and annual reports. So for instance, I asked ChatGPT to plot Google's free cash flow going back 5 years, draw a line of best fit, and then calculate the compound annual growth rate for the free cash flow over that 5 years. I said just that. And ChatGPT is able to make a graph for me. I didn't have to mess around on Excel. I didn't have to download it all into Excel myself, manipulate the data, and make the graph. ChatGPT is able to do that. I don't mind doing that sometimes, but I know there's a lot of people out there that are not huge spreadsheet nerds like I am. They don't want to have to learn how to make these calculations. It's incredibly convenient to just ask ChatGPT to do it for you. It can even do multiple companies at the same time. So in this example, I had ChatGPT plot the price to free cash flow ratio for 3 different companies. So I downloaded 3 different Excel files, one for Google, Garmin, and Apple. And boom, ChatGPT is able to make a graph for me so I can see how is the ratio of these companies changing over time. Grok, on the other hand, does not have the ability to upload Excel files to it, and it cannot make graphs for you based on information that you give it. It can make graphs based on information that it already has access to, but you just don't have the same control that you do with ChatGPT. Saving $4 a month with Grok is nice, but it doesn't come with the complete package that ChatGPT brings. Yes, Grok allows me to have my finger on the pulse of the people, what they're talking about. I can have real-time public sentiment on publicly traded companies, and that is incredibly powerful, but I also want to have the ability to reliably gauge the financial health of companies because it saves me time in my analysis. I'm able to look at way more companies because I'm able to save time in narrowing them down so that I can really spend my time with just the final few, looking at a free cash flow analysis to see which companies I actually want to invest in. I love using ChatGPT for the whole process from beginning to end, going from, I don't know what I want to invest in to I'm investing in this company. If you want to see the full process, check out this video right here. Cheers.